What's up, guys? How you guys doing today? Matt and Ryan here with the DFS 5-pack. We did this last week. We took a few minutes off of just talking sports, just to talk other topics for a little bit. That one was a little bit more about life. This one, we're just going to have some fun, guys. We're talking about 10 movies, mostly set for guys, but a bunch of them, like, I don't know, all of your wives and girlfriends and sisters and moms, whatever, are probably a little bit different. I don't know about you, Matt, like with your wife, but like my wife likes a lot of dude movies as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny. I know that I can take credit for being the inspiration for this video because I've been pestering you for the past 3 weekends now for movies for me, my wife, and my wife's friend to watch on Friday night to get me at least a little bit outside the realm of sports, which is nice to take a little break.
Absolutely. So I'm going to try to skip over movies I think everybody has seen. Now, there's going to be a couple of them in here that, like our older audience, you guys have probably all seen a million times, but I know we have younger viewers that maybe, movies that came out in the mid 90s, for example, might seem like classic films to you that you just haven't checked out yet. They still hold up though. I'm giving Gladiator as an example. Like everybody knows this movie. Who hasn't seen Gladiator and thinks it's awesome?
Yeah, no, I mean, I get where you're coming from for sure.
All right. So first one up, I'm going to start with my all-time favorite. And this again, probably goes back to what we were talking about with like some of the younger audience may have not checked this one out yet. This came out when I was in high school. So we're talking a little bit over 20 years old. And for like the rest of our older audience, you guys have probably watched this one 100 times or 100 million times, but it's The Rock starring Sean Connery, Ed Harris, and Nicolas Cage. I put this one out here as a second bullet point. Like, I know everybody thinks that Nicolas Cage is like the Nickelback of actors, but there was a point like in the 90s where he had a string of like really cool, like fun films. I'm not saying that Con Air and Face Off are like great award-winning movies, but they're a lot of fun to watch. But the best of the bunch to me is The Rock, starring him, Ed Harris, and Sean Connery. It's awesome. Just a fun action guy movie. I've watched this one probably 8 billion times in my life. If you haven't seen it yet, get out there and watch this one.
Yeah, great movie. Just an all-around great movie. I don't get the Nicolas Cage hate. I mean, I think he's fine. He's been in some good films.
Yeah,
what's that one?
Not in the last 15 years, though.
No, what's that one about the lottery winner?
Like the romantic comedy?
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I know what movie you're talking about, where he wins the lottery and he splits it with the waitress and they fall in love.
Yeah, I remember seeing that movie in the theater, like with my family when I was younger. So I got no hate for Nicolas Cage.
Okay, well, that's not a guy movie. That's definitely more. I have seen it too. I'm not going to lie. That's why I knew what you were talking about. But if you have not seen The Rock yet, again, I won't say this is the best movie ever, but it's probably my favorite movie that if it's on cable, I'm just going to stop on that channel right there.
Yeah, great movie.
Next one up, Matt. I don't know if you've seen this. This was recommended to me by a coworker about 4 years ago. It's called Warrior, starring Tom Hardy. Obviously, if you're really into like MMA, it's probably a little bit better, but I don't even think it matters. Like, I had my wife watch this one with me for the second time that I saw it, and like she couldn't take her eyes off the screen. It is awesome. I've watched some of the fight scenes on here on YouTube all the time. I can guarantee there's a couple people watching this who will probably check this movie out. Tom Hardy is like the best actor who never needs to say anything. He just grunts all of his lines, but he's awesome in this movie. Have you seen this one?
I've not.
It is amazing. I highly recommend that the next time you get an opportunity to watch this one. Basically, Tom Hardy, and that's his brother right there. This is like the closeout scene of the movie. He goes into the military to get out of. They grew up with like just a shitty background, shitty alcoholic father, played by Nick Nolte, and he comes back and they get into a situation where they go into like an MMA tournament for kind of like amateurs and things like that. And Tom Hardy is just the freaking badass of all badasses. As you can see, dude is not exactly slim.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, I would recommend for everybody who hasn't seen this. Might be probably my favorite movie on the list that I know a lot of people probably maybe even never heard of.
Yeah, I just don't see Sam wanting to watch this movie, not gonna lie.
I bet you should like it though. It's really good. And there's a story to it, not just the fight scenes too.
Her liking it after she watches it is different than her agreeing to watch it.
For sure. I get that. All right. Again, so I talked about movies that everybody's seen. Everybody, I think that's older. Like, I'm 38. You're a little bit younger than I am. Most of the people within our generation have seen this movie, but for some of the younger audience, this is, to me, my favorite Matt Damon movie. I actually put out a Twitter poll on Sunday. What's the best Matt Damon movie? Is it Rounders, Good Will Hunting, The Bourne Identity, and somebody brought up The Departed as well. This to me is Matt Damon's best movie. Now, again, I'm a big time, or used to be a big poker player, did that for a living for about a year back in the poker craze, like 10, 15 years ago. But most people love Ed Norton. He's awesome in this movie. John Malkovich is kind of the villain poker player in here. He's great as well. This is another one. Every time it's on cable, I guarantee I'm going to stop and just leave it on.
Yeah, great movie. I'm not a big time Matt Damon fan, but great movie nonetheless.
Yes, if you haven't seen this one, again, for the younger audience, go get it. If you are a gambler at all, and obviously most of the people who have subscribed to this channel and are DFS players, you're probably a bit of a gambler. This is a great movie for that.
It does help if you love poker.
Definitely helps. I mean, that's obviously going to be a big benefit. Just like the last movie, if you like MMA, it's probably a little bit better, but I don't think you need to like poker to watch this movie.
Agreed.
All right, so here's one I can almost virtually guarantee that nobody has seen. I know you, I'm sure you haven't seen it. It's called Creep, and yes, that is the dude from the show The League. I'm sure a lot of you guys know the movie the show The League because we're all fantasy sports players. I'm assuming you've never heard of this one, right?
No.
Okay, so the title is apt. It is perfect. This dude is creepy as hell. And the movie, basically, there's only a couple people in the entire movie. From I can remember, there may actually only be 2 people. And he puts out an ad on Craigslist for a videographer, and this guy answers his ad and comes to his house. And you spend the entire movie trying to figure out if this dude's just a weirdo, if he's a flat-out psycho. You got to like scary movies a little bit too, but it is creepy as hell. And if you like to be creeped out by movies, it is perfect.
That sounds so weird. Like, is it fiction, nonfiction?
It's fiction. It's definitely not based on a true story or anything like that, but it's not like I like scary movies that could be real. And this one could totally be real. There's nothing unrealistic in it. That's like with scary movies with like ghosts and stuff. Like, I'm not saying that ghosts don't exist, but I've never seen one. So it's not something that, scares me. This one seems like more realistic, which is the kind of scary movie that I like.
How'd you end up coming across this movie?
Well, when we're bored on a Friday night, instead of asking you, we just go on Google or on Netflix list, like movies that people might want to watch. And this one had a lot of people who seem to like it.
Asking you is so much easier.
Yeah, for you. All right, next up. So I brought this one up to you the other day. You said it might be next on your to-go-to movie list. I feel like this came out in the theater probably about 10, 11, 12 years ago. Probably more like 10 or 11. It's called Death Sentence. That is Kevin Bacon right there. And for most guys, we like revenge movies where one guy gets slighted and he just goes crazy after that. This is a classic revenge movie. Lots of good gory violence. The story's enjoyable. I like the soundtrack that goes along with it. This is my favorite movie Kevin Bacon has ever done. Definitely more of a guy movie, but one that I don't think most people's wife or girlfriend would mind watching.
Yeah, definitely a movie I'm planning on watching soon.
I know I got you to watch Man on Fire the other day, and you said you had seen it probably in the theater, but it'd been a long time. Like, this is like that. I mean, the story's not the same, but anytime one guy just goes crazy and starts killing people left and right, like I love those revenge movies, and this is right up your alley.
Gotta love that.
All right. Have you seen Boiler Room?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So this one, I've done sales. You've done sales. This job is part of sales. This one's kind of a cult classic. I watched this bad boy in college over and over again. This is Vin Diesel, pre-Triple X, Fast and Furious, everything like that. Giovanni Ribisi, Scott Conn, Jamie Kennedy. I can't remember the 2 dudes that are in the back, what their names are, but you might have seen them around in movies before. This is great for anybody, but especially great for anybody who's done any type of sales in the past. Yeah,
it's definitely great for a sales job. Like, the cast is amazing. It's not like my favorite movie ever, but it's so worth watching.
If you haven't seen it, so Giovanni Ribisi is the guy on the far left. You've probably seen him around in things before.
He's hilarious.
And he's got other roles that go along with it. He runs a casino out of his house for a little bit. It's kind of like a college dropout. And then the guy on the far back right, I just can't think of his name right now. He goes in there with Jamie Kennedy, and they start turning him into a stockbroker, and hijinks ensue. But it's great for anybody who has any kind of a sales background who hasn't seen it before.
No doubt.
Ben Affleck is in this one too, and his role, while it's small, he is awesome in what he does.
Well, that's like, the cast in this movie is like why you got to watch it, I think.
Absolutely. All right, so we talked about this one the other day, and for me, this is definitely one of my favorite sports movies, White Men Can't Jump. Again, but the majority of the older audience has probably checked this one out, but for you younger viewers, the trash talking And the Yo Mama jokes that go along with this. I mean, the whole consensus is about a white guy, obviously that being Woody Harrelson, since we know we're not as good at basketball, kind of hustling guys like that, like Wesley Snipes. He opens up the movie doing that, and just the hijinks that ensues from there. It's entertaining, but it's hilarious at the same time. This is definitely one of my favorite sports movies.
It's one of my favorite just movies of all time. Definitely in my top 10, close to the top 5. Two classic actors that I love in maybe their best roles. And I love Wesley Snipes in Major League. He's awesome in a lot of stuff, but man, this movie is just amazing. Like classic early 90s clothes, like everything about it. Freaking Rosie Perez. I mean, how could you not love this movie?
Yeah, for the younger audience, this was another one. This holds up. This isn't going to feel like you're watching like an old movie, like it's 20 years old or whatever it might be. It's still good.
Yeah, I want to go watch it right now, man. I love that movie.
So I played in a basketball tournament with a couple buddies last summer. Obviously, we're not really that good, but we watched this movie like the Friday night beforehand just to kind of get ourselves pumped up to play a little Gus Macker, and it's just a reminder of how funny it is.
Mm-hmm.
All right, have you ever seen this one, Never Back Down?
No.
Okay, so this is it's a little bit more cheesy. Like this is the second one that's more, it's got really good fight scenes. I brought up Warrior firsthand. Warrior is like a drama. Definitely a significantly better movie. This is a little bit more cheeseball because these guys are in high school and stuff like that. But the guy front and center right there, he has to move from Iowa down to Florida. The guy on the far right kicks his ass, and then he joins the guy on the far left into turning into a fighter as opposed to just a football player and stuff like that. I've probably watched this movie 30 times. It permanently sits on my DVR because it's completely brainless, but the fight scenes are a lot of fun, and just overall, it's just a good movie, just entertaining.
Interesting. Doesn't necessarily seem up my alley, but sometimes you can't judge a book by a cover.
You'd like it. I mean, it's a cheesy movie, but it's definitely fun.
Interesting.
All right. So again, this is probably the biggest movie that we'll have mentioned right here as far as what it did in the box office, winning awards. It's another one that I thought might be worthy to bring up to the younger audience. Without question, one of my 10 favorite movies of all time, Goodfellas. We got Ray Liotta, Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci front and center right there on the far right, actually. I mean, great movie, did really well with the audience, did really well with the award show. I think this came out in the early 90s, if my recollection serves me correctly. For the younger audience who maybe not have checked this one out yet, this is my all-time favorite mob movie. I think it's a must-see for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing movie. Look at that cast. I mean...
Yeah, you talk about a good cast like in Boiler Room. That's a fun cast. This is Pesci is awesome. And Robert De Niro, even though he went into a little stint of about 10 years there where most of his movies were awful, just obviously one of the Mount Rushmore of actors of all time.
Yeah, and the younger generation, man, this is probably lost on them.
Yeah, exactly. Like you might know him from things like Dirty Grandpa with Zac Efron or Meet the Fockers and stuff like that. But like Robert De Niro is without question, if you go back to like Heat, Raging Bull, Taxi Driver throughout the 70s, 80s, and things like that, Robert De Niro is just without question. You can't even argue him as on the Mount Rushmore of actors of all time.
No doubt. I mean, I personally love Al Pacino, so very much along the same lines.
Yeah, those are kind of like your go-to. Like, who are the best actors of all time? I mean, those are kind of like your 1-2 that a lot of people are going to think of off the top of their head. And you could have other guys that you would enjoy talking to, but they're kind of like the big two.
No doubt.
All right, last one up, Matt. I know you'll like this because this is one that I had you watch the other weekend, which kind of started us down this path of movies that people should see. This one was also produced by Ben Affleck. It stars his brother Casey. We got Ed Harris again, who was also in The Rock, Morgan Freeman, who everybody loves. And it's one of my all-time favorite movies. This is one that's good for men or for women. It did really well. Had Oscar buzz. I don't remember if it actually ended up winning anything, but I can't imagine anybody watching this one and not liking it.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's better than The Town. I liked it a lot. Fresh on my mind. So, yeah, just a great movie with a great cast. Nice twist. It's really for everyone.
You got to love the bar scene, too. There's a couple of scenes I'll never forget. The bar scene where Casey Affleck pistol whips that guy.
Yeah, for sure.
I like that one. Also, when they go, he goes with his drug dealing buddy over to the big fat lady and the cokehead's house. I like that part a lot, too. I don't know if you remember what I'm talking about.
Yep.
So there's a couple parts in it that'll be a bit squeamish. I know my wife still has brief nightmares about one scene, but it's got mystery, it's got twist, good cast, well written, well acted. It's got a little bit of everything.
Yeah, great.
So also the chick who played from The Office, who played Holly, plays a real dirtball in this movie too. So it's funny to see her as somebody as not Michael Scott's love interest.
Yeah, I don't watch The Office, but yeah.
So anyways, guys, those are just a few that I could think of off the top of my head. If you got any other recommendations, toss those bad boys down in the comments section. I know Matt's always looking for movies to watch. I don't get around to it as much as I would like to, but anything that you out there that you think people would enjoy, share with the community. We'll get back to talking sports here real quick, but thought we'd take a quick break today and just kind of discuss some things that are worthy watching, because every once in a while you can't watch basketball every single night.
No, and one movie, I know I mentioned this to you before, that should be on this list, that you guys should watch, especially the younger generation, is Boondock Saints. There's never been another movie like that, in my opinion.
If you don't know Boondock Saints, it stars Sean Patrick Flannery that most of you probably don't know, but he was in Suicide Kings. He was in another movie. He was in one of the Saw movies. He was also in, I'm trying to think of this movie he was in with Jerry O'Connell and Rob Livingston, the guy who played Peter from Office Space. Body Shots is what it's called. I watched that bad boy. That movie's old enough. I watched it on VHS and had it on tape. And then it's Daryl from The Walking Dead. And so it's like Norman Reedus, who plays Daryl from The Walking Dead. Most of you maybe haven't seen him in much besides that, but he was actually in a full feature movie.
Yeah, man, that movie is like just how it's I'm not sure the right word I'm looking for.
Cult classic.
Yeah, it's a cult classic. I mean, it's our generation. Love it.
Definitely. I've seen it a couple times. It's a very good one. If you haven't seen Boondock Saints, definitely worth checking out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. It's fun to talk a little non-sports related subject every once in a while, but let's get back to the NBA grind.
Agreed.